I have the newest Razr Plus with me, and a lot of things were changed. It wasn't a small update. In this video, I'm going to be comparing this year's Razr Plus to last year's Razr Plus and go over the small details that are going to make the user experience much better. Just a reminder that liking and subscribing will really help this channel out. Now let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to point out, and probably one of the more obvious ones, is just the overall size of the front cover display. And obviously the new one is a lot bigger, but beyond that, the size of the cover display going from edge to edge basically just gives it a more premium look. And when you see them in person, the difference in size is pretty big. So obviously with the larger display, you're going to have more room to view the app and you're going to have an easier time typing without taking up the entire screen with the keyboard. So there are plenty of benefits to having the larger cover display, and the fact that it's just not wasting any space with borders, it's just edge to edge screen basically, is going to provide the best experience you possibly can with this phone. One thing that I noticed that I didn't see mentioned anywhere is that the cover display is actually less reflective on the newer model than on the previous model. And that's going to be huge in basically any situation, because most of the time you're going to have some sort of light around you and it's going to want to reflect on the screen. So that's going to be beneficial pretty much every day of your life. And of course, if you're out in daylight, that's definitely going to help to reduce the amount of glare on the screen and going to make it easier for you to see what's on the screen. It's definitely not at the level of the Galaxy S24 Ultra, but now it's at the level of the more premium phones that have some reduced glare. Another change that's going to be pretty obvious once you see it in person is the increased size of the camera bump in the front. When you compare them side by side, the difference is massive, but it's definitely worth it because the boost in camera performance is pretty big. One of my biggest complaints of last year's Razr Plus was the camera performance, but this year I actually use the camera a little bit and I have zero complaints about it. Obviously, with this form factor, we have some limitations with camera, but as far as the form factor goes, this camera is pretty good. And another major change with the camera setup was that they replaced the ultra wide with a 2x lens. Now, the 2x is not exactly what I would want them to replace it with. I would obviously want the 3x or maybe a bit further with a 5x. But I can't complain because that's kind of the limit right now with the small phones from what I've seen. And it's a step in the right direction, at least for me, because I find the telephotos to be more useful than ultra wides. As far as the camera sensors go, it was upgraded from a 1/2.55 sensor to a 1/1.95 sensor. And that's actually a pretty big difference in size. And on top of that, it also got a boost in megapixels to 50 megapixel now instead of 13. One of my more welcomed improvements was the hinge. So on last year's Razr Plus, at least my model or my phone specifically had an issue with opening flat. And so it was kind of annoying to use. It would require me to put extra pressure to get it to straighten out. And that was it wasn't very convenient. However, with the new Razr Plus, the hinge is much smoother, and as soon as you open it, it's totally flat already and it kind of snaps into place. So it's a much better experience, at least for me, comparing it to my previous year's Razr Plus. Another difference with the hinge is really visual. I don't know if it provides any extra strength, but with the newer Razr Plus, the hinge is a bit more narrow than with the older Razr Plus, and the two halves of the phone are a little bit thicker. So the newer Razr Plus looks like it's a bit stronger. I'm not sure it really does translate to actually being stronger, it just looks a little bit stronger. And the performance is better already, as I can tell. The next change that was made is actually the sides or the rails of the phone. So both phones still have rounded rails and they're both super comfortable to hold. There's no pinching or anything on any part of the phone. With the newer Razr Plus, the rails are still rounded, but it's a little bit flatter when it gets to the meeting points, and that kind of helps to give the illusion that you're holding one piece of material rather than two halves of a phone. So it provides a little bit more comfort and a better experience when you're holding it closed. And continuing down the rails, you get to the buttons, and the newer Razr Plus is a little bit more low profile than the previous version, and that is going to help with the feel of it because it doesn't stick out as much, but it's still noticeable of where it is, so you're not searching for it. Overall, it was a nice design change and it looks a little better and it feels a little better, so it's an improvement nonetheless. As we get to the back of the phone, we see that I have the leather model from last year, and then this year it looks like they're all leather. So it seems like the leather back was a big success and they decided to just put it on all their phones. The difference this year is that they added a nice design to keep it from feeling too bland, and it looks great. One thing I gotta mention is that you can't trust the colors that you see in the website. They look terrible to me, at least when I was looking at it. Even the midnight blue, which is the one that I ended up getting, looked pretty weird on the website. But as I got it and I opened it, the color is actually very nice. So this will go for the green one and probably for the other ones too. It's probably going to look better in person than it did on the website. So going to the main screen, in terms of physical design of it, there's no change, but it was already one of the best ones, or actually the best one that was available in the US market. So there's no need to change that, at least at the moment. But Motorola didn't just leave the main screen as is. They actually improved the brightness on it. So even though it's physically the same with this pretty much the same crease, it's going to be a lot brighter and it's going to help you to see it in daylight and in other bright scenarios. So the one thing I noticed was that they made the bumper a little bit flatter, and that's going to help you to not crash into it as you're moving around. It wasn't a big deal or anything on the last year's model, but it was shaved down a little bit, and that's going to provide an even better experience. Another thing that was improved are the little guards here on the middle of the folding area. So it's a little more low profile, and they shaved off that little nub that they had on last year's model. If you look closely, the Razr Plus of 2023 has a little nub in the middle. And if you're swiping in to go back from that area, you're going to feel it. So those are small improvements, but it's going to make the phone feel a little bit more premium than last year's model. The new Razr Plus also has some pretty cool new AI features and software updates that help it to keep up with the competition. My favorite one, of course, is the AI generated wallpaper, because I actually use that one quite a bit. And the one on the Razr Plus is actually way better than the other phones that I've used. So instead of it being a set of values that you can mix and match like the other phones, it's actually prompt based. So that means that you can type in whatever you're thinking of, and it's going to try to create a wallpaper based on your prompt. I'm sure they're going to have plenty of guardrails around it to keep you from creating anything too inappropriate. But as long as it's somewhat decent of an idea, it'll probably create it for you. And the last one, and probably one of the more major changes that was made, is that the Razr Plus is now water resistant instead of dust resistant. For some, it might seem like a downgrade, especially if you don't live near water and you actually have more sand and dirt around you maybe. But for me, it's a big improvement because I live near water and I always love to have water resistance, because you just never know if, one day it just falls into a puddle after it rains or into a lake because I'm just too close and clumsy. So having that water resistance is really beneficial. But always remember that the water resistance is definitely not rated for salt water. If that happens, you're probably going to lose your phone eventually anyway. So when looking at the Razr Plus of 2024 as a whole package, there aren't many or any real flaws on it. I guess some might go back and forth as seeing a missing ultra wide as a flaw. But some actually like the telephoto lens instead. So there's nothing that can really be pinpointed as everyone's saying unanimously that it's just a bad design. The looks are great. The size is just about perfect when handling. The shape of it is one of the most comfortable phones I've ever used in my life. And it's just a great experience overall. I'm sure there are some shortcomings, and the one that always comes to mind is the camera software. It just doesn't optimize it as good as other phones. But if you compare last year's Razr Plus to this year's Razr Plus, the improvement is night and day when it comes to photo optimization. And if Motorola keeps improving their Razr Plus at this rate, they're going to be the unanimous best flip phone available on the market. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think the Razr Plus is still missing, and what does Motorola need to improve on it? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.